Hey, it's Dr. Amanda with Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com, and sorry about my voice today. It's a little raspy. Lost my voice earlier this week, but hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm going to start making some videos again. So, the topic today is about mobile teeth. So, obviously, we don't want to be starting treatment on cases with mobile teeth. So, you need to be careful about your case selection. But occasionally, during treatment, you start to get mobile teeth. And what should you do about that, Lots of different things. So this is actually going to be a really long video because there's so much to say. So hang in there. So first thing I like to do whenever a doctor tells me, hey, my patient's starting to get mobile teeth, is I say, well, okay, we need a little more information. But I say, well, what is mobile? Like, what does that mean? Talking about light mobility, like a 1 plus, 2 plus, and of course 3 is depressible, right? That's a big no-no. So I'm okay with the 0.5 to 1. That's totally normal. Teeth often get a little bit mobile as they start to move because you have to loosen it up in the socket in order to translate it, right? Normal, fine, okay? But when we start going to 1 plus to 2, that's starting to get abnormal. So of course we start there. And that's something you really should be checking every time the patient comes in, checking for mobility for sure. So there's 4 major things in my mind that have to do with mobile teeth. Some of them normal, some of them not normal. So let's kind of take you through it. So first thing I do whenever a doctor tells me this is, of course, I ask him, how mobile is it? And did it start this way or is this something new? Okay. Once we get that information, like I said, if it's 1 or less, fine, If it's more than 1, okay, we got to dig into it a little bit. So that's the first question. Second question is going to be, let's go ahead and pull up the x-ray and let's check out the crown to root ratio. And if you heard my analogies before about trees, if you've got a tree planted in the backyard and there's a lot of wind and you don't have a very good root structure and you have a lot of, leaves, if you don't have a good crown to root ratio, it's probably going to blow over in the storm, right? Well, same thing with teeth. So you got to look at the crown to root ratio. How's the bone? How much root do we have? How stable is it? If it's a bad crown to root ratio, well, yeah, it's probably going to get mobile, and it might get worse. So we're going to look at that. We're also going to go ahead and we're going to look at the treatment plan and see exactly how aggressive the treatment plan is. So teeth, for a stable treatment plan, especially for a perio patient, I want it to be moving 0.15 to 0.2 millimeters per aligner per month. Now the default Invisalign is 0.25, so that's even faster. The default ClearCorrect, last I heard, was 0.3 to 0.35. So you've heard me before say on Invisalign treatment plans, I always slow it down by 2. ClearCorrect treatment plans, I slow it down by 3. SureSmile is somewhere about 2.5 to 3 as well. I slow them way down. On perio patients, I might slow down the Invisalign by 3 and slow down the ClearCorrect by 4. Now, so far with Invisalign ClearCorrect, I've had no issues slowing things down. They don't give me any attitude. SureSmile does give attitude. They actually say no. So, these are things to take into account. This is part of the reason I always do perio patients with Invisalign is because A, they're very gracious about slowing things down, and B, their trim and their movements are a little bit slower, a little more gentle, and a little more healthy. The more aggressive and the more you're torquing those teeth, if you have high trim line trying to take it off, the more likely you're going to get mobility. And that's just a fact check. I don't know if there's research to back that up, but that's a fact check. So, just things to keep into account. So take a look at the treatment plan, and you guys aren't going to know. You can look at the TMTs and figure it out, but you're probably not going to know. It really takes a trained orthodontist eye to tell you if this is an aggressive treatment plan or not. So the first thing I'm going to do is slow the treatment plan like way the heck down. Now, if you're paying for an express case or a light case or a go case or a moderate case, this may not work. So you probably picked the wrong plan. Always do unlimited or comprehensive on these type of cases. Always, because you're going to have to slow it way down. Okay, so that's the first thing we're checking. Next thing we're checking is, are you round tripping or are you proclining the teeth? And did you get a Ceph? Well, that's the next thing I check. I say, well, did you get a Ceph? Did you get Ceph numbers? And 99.9% time, the doctors say, no, I didn't get a Ceph. Well, Ceph could be standard of care on these type of cases. And I'm not going to go into the whole when to get Ceph, when not to get Ceph. Most orthodontists get Cephs on every case. So that tells you something. Do we use it on every case? No. Well, we just get it on every case because it's better to have and not want than want to not have, right? So But even if you didn't get the ceph, we can look at the profile and we can look at the treatment plan, and we can pull up that TMT, or that tooth movement table, which is now available in Invisalign, in ClearCorrect, and in my white label company Global that I use. Those are the 3 companies I use. I can get a TMT and I can see, scroll down, look at every single tooth, and I'm going to look at buccal lingual movements, and I'm going to see, did the front teeth move buccally? Because usually the offenders are somewhere the front teeth, right, that are mobile. Did they move buccally during treatment? It'll say like 0.2B, as opposed to 0.2L lingual. I want them to either stay where they are, or I want them to move lingual if they are perio teeth. They are not allowed to move buccal. Now, here's the caveat. What if they round tripped? If they round tripped, it's not going to say that it moved buccal, because it actually ended up at the same location eventually. But they moved it forward in order to make space so you could do the IPR to move it back. That's called round tripping. And if you don't understand what round tripping is, you need to read my other videos on round tripping. To listen to my other videos on round tripping, you can go to your YouTube site, put in the search bar Straightsmile Solutions. Once you're there, that takes you to my homepage, which will have a variety of different playlists. There's also a magnifying glass towards the top right-hand area. It's a tiny little magnifying glass. You can type the word in round trip. If you type that in, you can see all my round tripping videos, all my videos about IPR and everything like that. You're not going to know if this case round tripped unless you know what that is and you know how to look for it. If they round trip, you're still moving the tooth forward in order to make space to do the IPR to move it back. That still messes up the tooth, okay? Round tripping is totally fine in a younger patient. I don't have a problem with it. But in an older patient, it's a problem, especially one that has perio or has a chance of mobility. So in my treatment plans for perio patients, I put in big bold letters, no round tripping, no proclination, no expansion. What does that mean? Well, that means we're doing a heck ton of IPR or we're taking out a lower incisor. So that's just how it is. But that will help to prevent, issues from happening. Next thing we have to keep in mind is we have to check the occlusion. We're going to use articulating paper. We're going to see if there's any premature contacts on those teeth that are mobile. I'm going to take those teeth temporarily out of occlusion. So if we're getting to the point where we're starting to get mobile teeth, first thing I'm going to do is check the bite. I'm going to take those teeth out of occlusion. Yes, I'm going to have to get out my handpiece for that. But you know what? Better to quickly get it out of occlusion than to have problems, with mobility. And that's a really good quick fix. So I'm taking all these things into account in order to hopefully save my mobile teeth. I'm going to change the treatment plan. I'm going to eliminate proclination, round tripping. I'm going to eliminate premature contacts or any contacts on those teeth. I want to make sure I end the treatment plans with no contacts on those teeth. And most likely, if this is happening as a refinement, I'm going to go ahead and put the patient in a temporary retainer. And you could order Invisalign retainers right off their website, or you can scan and make an in-house retainer or order it from your local OrthoLab if you'd prefer. And I'm just going to hold the patient in a retainer, which is thicker than a liner and more stable, for maybe 4 to 8 weeks with no occlusion on those teeth. I'm going to take them on occlusion to allow them to stabilize. And we're going to pause the treatment for a little while, or at least pause the treatment in that arch for a little while, depending on what's going on. And then we're going to circle back in about 4 to 8 weeks and see if they tightened up a little bit, take a progress x-ray. Of course, I didn't mention initially, always take an x-ray, right? Because what if there's an infection or pathology or something else that's going on? The x-ray tells a lot of things. I'm looking at the PDL. Are we getting bone loss? Do we just have a widened PDL that needs to tighten up because we were too aggressive? So I'm going to take a progress PA, make sure things are tightening up, make sure we're still out of occlusion, and then maybe I'll go ahead and refine with those things in mind, slowing down the treatment plan by 3 times, making sure those teeth are not in occlusion, and making sure we're not proclining or round tripping. And usually it works out okay. But if you talk to any periodontist that's out there, they're going to say, sometimes you have to stop treatment, and that's just how it is, or stop treatment in that arch. So I think anytime you have a patient that even starts with any type of perio or mobility, this does cover you a little bit in the Invisalign informed consent, but I recommend having an addendum to the informed consent and basically writing out, of course, any patient that has perio, even if you're doing some periodontal treatment in your office, it's standard of care to refer your patient out to the periodontal specialist. Why? Because you know what? If this ever gets escalated to the dental board or to an insurance company and the patient makes a complaint at the end that you made the patient lose their teeth, first they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, the patient had periodontal disease. Did the doctor refer to a periodontist for an opinion? And if you did not, you might be in trouble, okay? I know you know how to treat periodontal disease, simple stuff, but you know what? They are the specialist, and that's standard of care. You send your patient to the specialist, and you have them examine your patient. They will mark which teeth are hopeless, which teeth are guarded, things like that. Then you can go to the patient and say, hey, look, periodontist says that these teeth aren't doing great. So we're gonna have to monitor the treatment, and if needed, we might have to pause or stop the treatment. And then that's another thing you need to talk to your patient about is what does that look like? What happens if we stop the treatment at, let's say, there was 50 aligners and we stopped at 35. We never finished, okay? Just couldn't, without losing things. So if that honestly happens, you need to explain to the patient, are they getting a refund? Because in their mind, they're probably thinking, hey, I was 2/3 the way through treatment, I'm getting a 1/3 refund. Well, that doesn't quite work that way, because the way the billing goes for Invisalign cases is generally it's front loaded, because we've got to pay, obviously us, the doctors have to pay that Clincheck fee up front, which is $2,000. Records and diagnostics have a value. Bonding appointment has a value. IPR session has a value. So for me, you need to really, even if you think this is a case, you need to kind of explain how that would work. If we had to stop mid-treatment, the refund would be prorated depending on what services are done. It would be a very minimum refund. At most, it's probably $300 or $400, if anything. It may not be anything. So what really I've found before in patients, and talking to a lot of patients have been through this, is that's what upsets them the most, is that you were not transparent on what that would look like. They're expecting a 30% refund, you're giving them a 10% refund, they're mad because you didn't explain how the billing works. So a lot of orthodontists actually chart this out at the beginning, and they say if you have to stop, say, in August 2022, the refund is only going to be $500. If you stop in July 2022, the refund is, $600, et cetera, but it's a minimal refund, if any. And of course, they're going to have to sign a discontinuance form. So I recommend also having that conversation. And if you want to create a document, you can. If not, just have a verbal conversation, or the patient sign something just saying basically that they understand that the refund will be minimal, if not at all, if they choose to stop. So anyways, that's pretty much it. Wow, that was a lot of information, but now you know more on how I handle mobile teeth during orthodontic treatment. All right, thanks so much.